Welcome for those of you that are joining us live right now. As usual, I am going to sit here and riff for a little bit while the live streams get going. Uh, if you are logged into Nimsy, you're already seeing this, but we are live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and other stuff. I do these. My name is Tucker Johnson, and I do these live pop up events. They are pop up. We do not announce them. They are just out there so that if you want to get notified when they pop up, make sure to like and subscribe Nimsy Insights. That way you will always receive those notifications. Make sure those notifications are turned on if you're on YouTube, though. Otherwise, you won't get notified. But without further ado, I want to introduce my esteemed colleague here, Sarah Hickey, who is the VP of Research at Nimsy Insights and runs, frankly, some of the most interesting research projects that we do. She manages our flagship reports, our flagship research projects, and super interesting stuff. Sarah, why don't you take a second just to introduce yourself here?
Yeah, sure. Already a very nice introduction, Tucker. Super flattering. So thank you for that. Yeah, super quick background for those who don't know me, which probably most of you, to be honest, because I haven't been around the block in the industry from that side for that long, pretty much since I joined Nimsy 2 years ago. I started in radio journalism. I'm from Germany. I'm back in Germany now as well, but I lived in Ireland for 9 years and I'm married to an Irish man. I transitioned into translation briefly and then did my degree in conference interpreting. And that's how I ended up at Nimsy, actually, because I did some research in the area of interpreting and then started as the interpreting researcher and then slowly worked my way up to other projects, like Tucker already mentioned there. So, yeah, I'm doing the bigger market studies now, like the NIMSY 100 or the Interpreting Index or some association research for the local markets in the UK or the US and all that kind of jazz. And still lots and lots of interpreting research also. Yeah.
Like I said, you have a lot going on your plate, and welcome to Udo joining us in Twitter Spaces. For those of you that don't know, we are also piloting Twitter Spaces, which is essentially Twitter's answer to Clubhouse. It's an online voice-only social. So if you would like to come join, then come on over to Twitter, follow Nimsy Insights at Nimsy underscore Insights, and join our space. And you can come up on stage, just raise your hand, and come up on stage and add your insights. But we are just getting started here. Sarah, you just gave a presentation at T-Mobile, or T-Mobile, I'm sorry, T-Update conference. First of all, tell me about T-Update. Who organizes it? Who's it for? Who goes? Tell me, because I didn't get a chance to go, but holy crap, I've seen so many people talking about it on LinkedIn, Twitter, social. Oh, it's all over the place. What is this conference that everyone's talking about?
Yeah, so good question. It's from the EU ATC. So that is the Association of the European Translation Companies. And I've actually only joined it for the first time. And yeah, just raised my hand, said I would like to speak, and got lucky and got accepted. And then I actually had a lot of fun putting together a video for T Update. From what I could tell, it was largely also the same crowd as in other conferences. So there was largely language service providers and your typical faces from the industry. I really liked that there was a fundraiser from Translators Without Borders, organized by
Was
Andrew
that
Hickson
Andrew? I was
again.
gonna say that.
Yeah, of
Was that
course.
Andrew? Yeah. Shout out to
Yes.
Andrew. I called
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately I missed that one. I was really excited to go because I remember the last event Andrew put together that I was able to join in person at Gala in Munich a
Oh
few years
yeah,
ago.
I met. For those that don't know Andrew Hickson, Andrew Hickson works with Ludejo. Am I pronouncing that right, or do they call themselves
I don't know.
Ludejo or Ludejo? Anyways, Malone, Andrew, what's up? They work with an LSP, but Andrew also does a lot of work with Translators Without Borders, which is a fantastic organization, and just did a fundraiser. So just catching you up for those that aren't in the loop. Sorry, I interrupted you, Sarah.
No, that's cool.
You're on air.
Yeah, T Update was actually pretty cool because it was different from your usual virtual conference. That I mean, we've had so many virtual conferences now in the last year, and they were all well organized and fun with fun events. And people have gotten more creative with using like Remo, where the I think it's called Remo, the platform where you can, that actually looks kind of like a conference room, like you have little tables, so you can join
Oh
table
yeah, yeah,
chat
yeah.
groups, and there's a little, in one there was also a dance floor that I joined. That was fun. Um,
I want to organize a localization conference in like Fortnite or something, or some video game environment. But I don't know how to play Fortnite. I just think it's cool. So, but
well, yeah,
that's what the
with
T update
the
looked like. It looked like a video game.
exactly. So this one, this was the most creative one I've ever joined. And first I thought, oh man, this is really, really complex. But then once I tried it, it was actually really cool. It was exactly, it looked like a video game. So everyone signed up, and you could pick your own avatar and then run around, and you could actually also see the other conference participants running around the space, and you could go to the different exhibition booths, or you could go to the stage and watch a presentation. And there as well, it was like kind of virtually being in a room together and looking at a stage as well together. So that's why the presentations were happening, and there were little breakout rooms. So I thought it was really fun in the end. And I'm not a gamer at all, but I I enjoyed it then as well. That's trying out, like, I don't know, flying around the conference and running around, seeing people I know in the crowd. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I just brought it up on screen here, and I thought I want to show the people that are watching this at home what this looks like because it's so cool. And so I was going to search for it, and then I thought, no, just go to LinkedIn, and it's going to be one of the first three posts that are in your feed.
Yes.
And sure enough, Vladimir here, CEO over at Protamos, just a screenshot from T Update Virtual 21 conference. It really is a new experience that I'm enjoying. Yeah, not a whole lot of traction there because that's brand new tweet right there, or LinkedIn right there, but it's all over LinkedIn here. All, well, now it's going to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing
Speaking
anything.
of Andrew, he posted a bunch of screenshots as well, I think.
Andrew, yeah, Anne Marie, of course. Oh, Anne Marie posted a video.
Nice.
Thanks, Anne Marie. But see, this is really cool. Like you can go around and, but you have basically a little avatar, so you can go
Yeah.
and do whatever you want. It's like a video game,
Be
and
whoever you want.
you can be whoever you want. And isn't that why we all joined this industry, so that we can be who we want to be?
Yeah.
But I mean, this is a tangent somewhat, looking at this stuff, but not really, because what we wanted to talk about today, and this is not planned for those of you that are listening. This is very much like live podcast style, these pop-up events that we do. So 5 minutes before, we wanted to talk about COVID as an accelerator for COVID as an accelerator. Let's start there
For everything,
for
pretty much.
everything, right? And the reason for that is because I was watching your presentation at T Update, and it's one of the things that you talked about here. And you're talking about it based upon data taken from the NIMSY 100, which is our flagship report that comes out every March or so, ranking the top language service providers in the localization industry, talking about market trends, talking about this industry, this market that is just constantly growing, even through economic downturns. So let's start there, Sarah. What what would you say? This is what we say. This industry is always growing. Why? How? Talk to me about that a little bit.
Well, first of all, our industry touches upon all other industries, because no matter if you are in the banking sector, in the retail sector, in the media sector, there's always a need for language services, especially in a world that is going more and more global. Everyone's going global into other markets. And as we say, if you go global, you also have to go local, right? Back into the local market. And
Right.
one way or another, anyway, language services are everywhere because people need to communicate. And if you want to bring your product to other markets, it needs to be in the language of the consumers as well. That's reason number one. And then as well, our other co-founder Renato Beninato also likes to say is that when times are good, we translate contracts. When times are bad, we translate lawsuits. So it doesn't really matter if times are good or bad. People are going to communicate. Or even if we say that there's fewer exports now, well, it doesn't matter if there's maybe 300 million products being shipped, or just 10 million products from like a company in France to a company in Brazil. They're going to need the same amount of translations. Like the translation requirement doesn't change with that. So that's not to say that there isn't any changes in demand for translation or interpreting services or subtitling or dubbing, but there's always a demand, and that's why we usually also our industry outperforms the global economy because it's not so bound by just one single market. It's all of the markets.
And how big is our industry? What does that growth look like? You
Well,
know these numbers probably like the back of your hands, having worked on all of this
I do.
research, but there's perhaps folks out there that have never heard of localization.
Yeah, so we estimate that in the last year, in 2020, the industry reached 55 billion US dollars. So that's quite enormous. And we expect it to reach about 57 billion this year. And that is despite the impact of the pandemic. So it's still growing, even though we were also impacted by the pandemic, of course. And there was a slowdown in growth, but it's still growing. And that's a really positive indicator. On top of that, we can definitely expect there to be more growth and almost like an explosion of content once we are finally past the pandemic. Once people can actually meet up again, there will be more on-site interpreting again. But at the same time, we've seen a boost to remote interpreting that we also expect to last, and that will expand the market. Then in the media segment, production, of course, had to stop. I mean, I know some production has resumed now, but not to the same level. And for example, I'm personally, I can't wait because I feel like I'm watching the same movies and TV shows over and over again on Netflix and all the other streaming platforms. And I'm really excited for some new content to come out finally. And
Right.
eventually, of
Right.
course, yeah, that will also translate into growth for media localization because, well, like I said, I'm based in Germany, and while I watch movies and TV shows in English, many of my friends or family do not. They watch them in German, which is largely dubbed here. In other markets, it's more subtitled. But yeah, that'll definitely translate into growth.
Very cool. And I brought up on screen here, I have the NIMSY 100 pulled up. For those of you, if you want to follow along at home, just go to www.nimdzi.com, and the NIMSY 100 industry ranking and industry report is going to be one of the first things, and you can certainly follow along at home. A quick shout out to people down in the comments section over on LinkedIn. I'm going to screw this up. Alfauzia Nurami, welcome. Thank you so much. She's dialing in from Indonesia here. Raymond, welcome. Welcome to you as well. See if I can bring you up screen, maybe.
It's getting warm here now. Conversation is making me warm.
Oh,
Okay.
out there on your garden, your solarium in your greenhouse.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my sauna.
Yeah. Yeah, and for those of you, oh, there we got the comments up on screen. For those of you over on Twitter Spaces, just keep in mind we are recording this. We are live streaming this out. So if you'd like to come up on stage and join the conversation, you can, but you will be recorded. I always get distracted and lose track here. So I want to talk about, though, who were the winners? You say we continued to grow because talking about
Hmm.
industry growth is like, I mean, that's all well and good. That's fine. That's interesting
Yeah.
intellectually to have that conversation. But it's like talking about the economy. And it's like, I don't care about the economy. I care if I have a job. I care if
Yeah.
I can feed my family, right? So for those people that were negatively affected, those organizations that were negatively affected out there by COVID, by the pandemic, why was that? Who was affected? Why were they affected? What would you have to say to them about that? There's a bunch of questions, so do with that what you
Yeah,
will.
exactly. So I'm gonna say this now. I'm gonna say so. We'll see. Okay. Who was impacted negatively? Let's start there because then we can work our way up to the positive side. So negatively impacted, one area that comes to mind right away is, of course, the travel and hospitality industry, and also the local retail industry. Well, I don't know why I say local, but I mean the actual on-site stores, the brick and mortar stores as well. That kind of retail business. They were heavily impacted because of the lockdowns, right? No one was allowed to travel, or at least very, very, very limited. Nothing in comparison. We've all seen some airlines struggle in different countries across the globe, and other travel companies as well. So they had to get really creative, and so companies in the language industry that derived a lot of their profits from that sector, they were also equally impacted, because this is a plus and a minus, I guess, in our industry, that we're impacted in the same proportion as the industries that we serve. So that's one way of looking at that. And then another one, to definitely highlight, it was one of the most impacted segments, was the interpreting industry, and in general, positively and
Which is
negatively.
very near and
Uh,
dear to your heart, right? Having
yeah, exactly.
You are an interpreter. That's your background.
Yeah, and I'm by trade an on-site interpreter as well. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, it was already in my training, taught to also work with, well, with videos. Actually, at the time wasn't live, but yeah, I'm a trained on-site interpreter for conferences, and that was exactly the segment that was hit really, really hard. So I think at least like yeah, it was basically obliterated. On-site conference interpreting was gone from one
Like
day to
overnight.
another. Yeah,
Overnight, right? The conference
exactly.
industry as a whole, like when the pandemic hit in here in the US, I was in Southern California getting ready to go to a conference.
Yeah, I was one day away from flying over to that
Yeah, you were going to
conference.
meet us there,
Yeah,
right? You probably
exactly.
wouldn't have been able to get home. Yeah, so conferences,
Yeah.
but so let's talk about conferences. So we started talking about with T
Mhm.
Update and the cool stuff that they're doing over there, but I see this as a long-term win for conferences because
Mhm.
A, when the world opens back up, people are going to be excited. I'm going to be
Yeah.
first. Whoever, if you're listening out there and you're organizing a conference, send me a frickin' invite. Send me a bill, because I am ready. I'm ready to go out there and shake some hands. Ew, that's actually
Yeah.
ew. After a year of not shaking anybody's hand, that's actually sounds kind of weird. But conference organizers have been forced to adapt very quickly,
Mhm.
and we've seen winners, losers, and status quo. I think here in our industry, I think
Yeah.
the winners are the folks that were able to adapt very quickly over to a virtual format and do that in a meaningful way. The losers, I would say, are the people that resisted that change and said, I don't want to
Yeah.
do this. I'm just going to wait for everything to die over, or to blow over. Wow, bad choice of words to talk about a pandemic. I'm just going to wait for everything to pass with the pandemic. That'll be over in a few months. And then it wasn't over in a few months. And now I think people are regretting not jumping on that.
Yeah, and even probably before the pandemic, because a lot of these
Yeah.
solutions, like in remote interpreting, was already there before the pandemic, and we always talked about it as like what a solution in search of a problem. And then
Right.
and many people, also many resisted it. So some had seen the opportunity, but especially also many interpreters have resisted it, or still sometimes even today not as happy to use it, because it comes with different rates and different working conditions and all that. But yeah, it's definitely clear the ones who were prepared were the ones that didn't have these significant losses. First of all, when you're talking about regular interpreting providers, or also the interpreters, and then the ones who actually provide the remote interpreting technology, or virtual interpreting technology, like we call it, they actually saw their business skyrocket. Like it's insane. In some cases, there was only something like 140% growth, but in other cases it was like 300, or like the demand in some cases went up by 3000 for a company that I talked to as well. And that's and then we've seen so much investment in that area as well. So I agree with you that I think ultimately what will come out of this as well is that it will be good for conferences and also for conference interpreting, because well, I do expect that we go back to on-site, right? Like you also said, we'll be the first ones there if we can go to an on-site conference again. But at the same time, this has also shown now that these remote solutions, that they work. There's no reason to be afraid of them. They can actually save your ass as well, and that in some cases it might just be more convenient as well. There can be this hybrid model where not only the interpreters can be remote, but also some of the speakers or some of the participants, like even like you might not make it to every conference, but you still want to join in, even if it's an on-site event. You can log in via remote solution and listen to the speakers, or even the participants, to the interpretation. Those are all solutions that already existed before the pandemic, but I think they will be more utilized now because people have tried them. they see that it works.
Well, that's it. It goes back to the actual people, the end users, right? I don't put it on conference organizers or brands or LSPs in our industry and say, like, man, they weren't innovating before the thing, before the pandemic, whatever you want to call it. And now they are, because I don't see that there was a need to innovate. There wasn't an appetite. We talk about
Mhm.
innovation a lot in our industry, but I see frankly very little appetite for real innovation around things that aren't people's pet causes. We all want to innovate language stuff, machine translation, all of that stuff, but we don't talk about like the mainstream innovations, like conference, like virtual event management, virtual
Mhm.
conferences, stuff like that. And this
Well, it
forced
went
us into
so
it. It forced our hand.
yeah, and it has gone really. I don't like to use this term very much, but it has kind of gone a bit mainstream also. With
Yeah.
well, if we're looking at all these remote conferences, so like my favorite example is that even my mother has now been on Zoom and Microsoft Team calls, and for some people that might not be
Mine
so
too.
unusual, but
Yeah.
for my mother it is. She's working as a music and sports teacher in a public school in Germany, so she really has no reason to be on Zoom calls usually, but it's different
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, my mother has actually joined Zoom calls as well, which is amazing. Amazing if you know your mother. And I always like to passive aggressively poke jabs at my mother because she'll call me and be like, "I saw your program. I saw your show today. I'm so proud of you." And but she never comments on my pokes at her. So I'm like, "Bullshit. You didn't watch it. You didn't watch it, mom." But no, that's amazing. If my mom can be motivated to log into a Zoom call for a family reunion or whatever it is, then there is hope for the rest of us. Is kind of how I look
Yeah,
at it.
and my mom even had to do it for work, and she's liking it. Or another friend, I mean, who's way more tech enabled as well, like more than my mother is what I'm trying to say. She was also saying that she used to have to travel maybe a day, really, with getting there and back to have just a 1 hour meeting with another, like a team located in a different city, and that was the work day. Then the rest of the time was gone. Whereas now her bosses have also seen, oh, maybe it's not necessary that we do this for every single meeting. Like for some meetings it's great to meet in person, of course we all love that, but maybe just for 1 hour and you're gone the whole day, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So everyone has, I think this is a similar, we will see a similar impact also for multilingual meetings, that people will see that this works, and that it makes sense to utilize this more, and that it's easy to utilize it as well. So it's not as complex and terrible maybe as people were like expected it to be before. Sorry, that got a bit rambly there.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. I can't help. I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this. I can't help but think, and I've been thinking about this for a while, that the language services industry, we are global, we are remote by nature, and I can't help but wonder, did we miss an opportunity, and as an industry, as a whole industry, to provide leadership to other industries, to provide leadership to adjacent industries to language services, because I saw a lot of other folks out there struggling with making that transition to virtual, making that transition to remote. And it's something that we just chuckle about because we work with people all over the globe. When we started working together, you were in Galway,
Mm.
and now you're in Germany. Where did you move? You told me.
It's my hometown. It's called Oberhausen,
That's what I
which
said.
yeah,
I'm just
I'm
kidding.
sorry. Yes, exactly. um,
Entschuldigung,
it's
Entschuldigung.
it's in the Ruhr Valley near Essen. It's a large town here, well, town city, and bigger ones you would know would be Düsseldorf or Cologne, not too far away. Yeah,
Cologne. Thank you for anglicizing for me. I
yeah.
did.
Well, it's the same,
Ich
Düsseldorf.
kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen, aber vielleicht nicht jetzt. Yeah, I can speak a
One of the
little bit of
first rules in
German.
interpreting, you have to make it understandable for the person you're interpreting for. It's not about showing off your language skills.
Genau. Let's go back to the. I got the NMC 100 pulled up if you can't see here. And we actually have some information here in the News 100 about this. You talked about it. T update. We're talking about it
Mhm.
now. The verticals and services. We covered this. We talked about the big accelerator technology as the big differentiator.
Yeah.
Specifically, what are we looking at here?
Hmm.
Let's talk about and start with interpreting because that's your sweet spot. Tell me about companies out there that are offering platforms that like the Kudos of the world,
Yeah.
who just has talk about Kudo.
Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, Kudo is probably one of the most prominent platforms when it comes to interpreting technology. They're also really out there with their marketing. I feel like when you look into that space, they're kind of everywhere, and also for good reason. They are good at what they do. They are well. I still refer to them
And
as a remote
FYI,
simultaneous interpreter.
this is not a promotion. We're not getting paid by
No, no, and
Kudo
I would
for
have mentioned
this.
other
Yeah.
platforms too. I was just trying to say it's not just because of their marketing. They are good, you know. So. Um, but anyway, so I still refer to them as a remote simultaneous interpreting platform, but I think they see themselves more now as a language as a service company, which I think is a
Hmm.
interesting development as well. Yeah, they just received funding, 21 million just now, and 6 million already in the last year, so 27 million in total, and that in the year of the pandemic, which is pretty cool.
I always have
Um,
to find an excuse to use that button. Every stream, I have to
I
find
like
an
it.
excuse to use that button.
To me, and I want to come back to something you said earlier, like why should you care if a company, if the economy is booming or whatever is growing, and why do I care? Maybe as an interpreter or other linguist, or even as a company. So why should interpreters or anyone out there care that Kudo received this funding? I mean, it's kind of like okay, good for them, but it's also I think a massive vote of confidence for multilingual meetings in general, because what they and like human powered ones as well is what I want to get to. So yes, this is technology enabled, but they are using human interpreters, so nothing, none of this works right without the actual linguists involved. And to me this also means that there is more room to grow, right? It means that we can expect the market for multilingual meetings to grow, that investors are confident that this is a positive area to invest your money into.
And who's out there? The Googles. You're coming. This is going live, but you and I behind the scenes are talking on Google Meet. Surprisingly,
Mhm.
I also do these on Skype. I do. Everyone
Yeah,
has a platform out there.
I love Google Meet. It's so
I
easy.
love Google Meet too, but Skype is also out there, and I think who's going to win this war is the one that integrates interpretation into their platform. Because to
Hmm.
me, it seems more like something to integrate into a platform than something that should be its own platform. And that whenever I'm not the interpreting expert, that's why we got you, right? But it's like when I look at Kudo, I think, yeah, but I don't want to use a separate because like I've got so many platforms downloaded. It's like I
Yeah.
don't want to use a separate platform. I just want to dial into my Zoom meeting and click a button that says
Mhm.
activate interpreting plugin or something. Where are we on the track towards that, and how is the 2020 accelerated investment into that area?
Yeah, that is coming along as well, and I think it's a really really good point because, like you said, you know, but, people like to use what they know. Plus, and it should be as easy as possible to use. That's something we keep on repeating as well, right? If you have technology, make it as easy as possible for the end user. Like the needs of the end users are becoming more complex, but your solution should be super simple, like super easy to use, because otherwise no one wants to use it. And then
Right.
yeah, people like to use what they know, and Zoom is by far, so far anyway, the winner of video conferencing. Like, I mean, yeah, we keep using Google Meet, and I love Google Meet, and we have lots. We use the other platforms as well, but Zoom, just purely by the numbers, is the absolute winner. So, interpreting technology providers can see that as a threat or as an opportunity, right? So you can compete with that, and in some cases for good reason, because, for example, the multilingual platforms like Kudo, Interprefy, Interactio, VoiceBoxer, Boost Lingo. There's loads and loads of them, so I don't want to just keep talking about Kudo. There's others out there. Um, they have they were built with multilingualism in mind, right? So they were trying to
Right.
replicate the scenario like that you have at a conference, and have everything you need for the interpreters so they can work as a team, which is essential. Have a handover function. You can do all sorts of like document sharing and voting and polling and whatever, like you can do in a live conference. But on the other hand, yes, I think it would um, well, it would be stupid not to try to cash in on this Zoom boom, yeah, for interpreting providers. It's a great opportunity,
I like that. Zoom
and
boom.
yeah,
I have
and
never heard that before, actually.
really, I find that hard to believe. No, but anyway, and Boostlingo have actually taken significant steps in that direction. Just now, they only just announced like maybe 2 weeks ago that they have managed to integrate with Zoom, in the sense they are that people can now, like, they're part of the Zoom marketplace app now, so people can
I saw
who
that.
use Zoom. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, wasn't there a write up in Multilingual about that?
Yes,
I
definitely
think there was.
multilingual.
Yeah.
The press release, and we're actually publishing something about this next week as well, about not just about Boostlingo, but an update to remote interpreting
Oh,
on
lovely.
Nimsy.
Are we publishing
Yeah.
the full interpreting index over at NIMSY? Are you working on that this year, or is that a biannual thing?
Well, it looks
Or
like it's biannual because I did it in 2019 and I want to do it
oh,
this year. So,
oh,
so yes, I want to give an update to that, but not next week. It's still in the works.
awesome.
Um,
We have
but anyway, so
we have some chats here. Let's go through the chats. Hey, Udo, I someone kind of but agree with a lot of what Sarah says. Of course, you sound like a smart man, Udo. Agreeing with what Sarah says. I see a tendency for more and more meeting in MS Teams, actually. Yep.
mm,
Could Sarah say
yeah.
something about restreaming so a meeting happens in Teams or Zoom? Clarify what you mean there, Udo, if you're still with us. Something about restreaming. So a meeting happens in Teams or Zoom. You mean about streaming live those meetings?
Do you maybe mean that when people have to use both platforms, that, for example, the interpreters maybe receive the video and audio, yeah, and restream it to the
Ah,
RSI platform?
yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. So that is like the common workaround right now. So most platforms say that they can integrate with any video conferencing platform, and to a certain degree that's true. But these are really workarounds, just like Udo mentioned there, so that it's basically you have to use both platforms. You have your regular meeting on Zoom, Teams, or whatever, and then you also use the RSI platform. The interpreters get the audio and the video feed from the, let's say, Zoom, and they interpret though through the RSI platform, and the participants also have to listen through that. So it's a very complex workaround. It works, and I know many interpreters who have worked that way. But yeah, from my research, I know that a lot of the companies that offer interpreting technology want to do real integrations, so like native integrations. So it's not just a workaround anymore. But this is, of course, a lot more complex for remote simultaneous interpreting, because they have to have separate language channels and have to have like the handover functionality working. Whereas, yeah, like what Boostlingo did now, it still is really impressive because it was properly done with Zoom in cooperation. And you can add you can get a Boostlingo account, and then once that's set up, you can just invite the interpreters, same as you would invite any meeting participant. But of course, that's only for consecutive interpreting. So that's when the speakers and the interpreters take turns. So that is still a significant step forward because it's the first legit integration. But yeah, taking it one step further for remote simultaneous interpreting will be like another beast, basically. And but Zoom also does has an interpreting feature already. It's a lot more rudimentary, so there's no handover function. You cannot do relay, which is when interpreters use like another interpretation. For example, if I only work with English and German, and if someone was speaking in French, I would have to listen to my English colleague maybe, and then go from there into German. You can't do that on Zoom yet, and that's an essential functionality also for a conference.
Eh,
But yeah, but
It
it
goes to
works
the old
also.
adage. Well, it's not an old adage that makes it sound credible. It's something I made up, which I say all the time, which is that technology companies suck at language and language companies suck at technology. And you have
Yeah.
language companies out there that want to develop their own tech, and you have tech companies out there that want to cater to language workflows. And I haven't seen it work well.
Hmm.
Not out of the box, right? Not out of the box. And that's why old school behemoths, like the SDLs of the world, they're still out there because they've nailed it. It took them a while to do it, but
Hmm.
really, like they started so long ago, there was nothing to nail. They just kind of grew into it. But we could use a lot more innovation in our industry. I think from a technology perspective.
Yeah, and I think it's a really smart move to not resist this development and to just go, well, Zoom isn't good enough, or Teams isn't good enough. It's true, they are not right now that good in compare when you're looking at the language side only. They cannot compete with the big RSI platforms or even the other interpreting platforms. It's not the same, not even nearly the same, but they are more popular and people want to use them. So it just makes more sense to bring your maybe all your knowledge from, if you're an RSI provider or other interpreting remote interpreting provider, to take your knowledge and bring it with you to like Zoom and Teams and WebEx and try to cash in on their success, right?
Udo says, when I am asked for a restreamed RSI job, I prefer also be in the originating meeting. Yeah, thanks for joining the conversation, Udo. For those of you that are
Yes.
here, we live stream these, and one of the reasons we live stream these is because it allows us to engage with the audience. So thank you so much, Udo. God, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you so much for joining in the conversation. We also got a couple people over on Twitter Spaces. If anybody wants to come on up to the stage, just raise your hand. I know Twitter Spaces is totally new for everybody, so you probably have no idea how to do that. I don't know how to do that, so I can't help you. But come on upstage. Hello, we've got more people joining us. AI Farm NG. Hi, welcome. But yeah, that's why we do this live, even though we have noisy stuff in the background and it's a completely controlled environment, or not a controlled environment. Join. Oh, here's what I wanted to say. If you're listening to this after the fact, then and you're leaving comments because you think it's live, it might not be live. So make sure you're watching the live recording. And if I'm not responding to your comments, if I'm not talking to you, maybe you're watching the recorded version because this will be out there on in perpetuity afterwards. But Sarah, you got a hard stop. You got some little ankle biter to feed.
She can't even bite my ankles yet, but
She
she
can't even bite your
does
ankles
bite my
yet.
face.
Yeah, she is adorable. Yeah, you got to go take care of your family. But thank you for deciding to come on. You pinged me less than 24 hours ago and said, "When are we going live?" And I
Yeah,
like that.
last night when I was going to bed.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty late for you. So thank you for doing that. This is not the last time, for those of you out there, this is not the last time you're going to see Sarah Hickey. If I have anything to say about it, we're going to get her up here quite a lot because as the VP of Research here at NIMSY Insights, she is just a wealth of knowledge about the market. She's as a practicing interpreter and analyst for that space. She's a wealth of knowledge about that. And I don't want to be selfish. I want to share her with the world. I want to share your knowledge with the world even more. But if you're watching live, once again, just to reset here, like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. If you don't subscribe to NIMSY on whatever platform you're watching this on, you won't get notified of the new events that pop up because we don't plan these. They are pop-up events. So do that. Really quickly, NIMSY Insights. You might be wondering, who the heck are these guys? I've never seen them before. Well, we are a market research and consulting company focused on international markets, focused on language services, whether it be translation, interpretation. There is a difference between those two. Internationalization, globalization, go-to-market, research, all of that stuff. You name it. We do it. We have a lot of fun here at NIMSY. We do these live streams, usually in the morning. They're pop-ups. If you'd like to join, if you have something to say, if you have some value to add, if you've got a story to tell, then please reach out afterwards. I'm working on a sign up form, but just ping me. My name is Tucker Johnson. Ping me on LinkedIn and let's have a conversation about how we can help you get your ideas out there and help you add value to your audience as well using this platform. With that, I'm playing the music. I'm playing us out before they get the cane and drag us off stage here,
So
Sarah.
glamorous.
Any closing thoughts?
Man, I feel like we bounced around so many different topics. Yeah, that I definitely would like to come back and delve a little deeper into the individual ones. I think one kind of closing thought is that the last year was tough in many ways, and it is still tough right now. But I think that so much positive has come out of this as well, and is going to come out of this. Like you said, we always talk about innovation, but well, maybe we needed that trigger to really make it happen. And so I think after the pandemic, it's going to be a mix of some of the old and good stuff that we know that will come back, and then topped off with some of the new innovations we've seen. So that's really exciting.
Here, here. Thank you very much, Sarah. If let us know in the comments, what do you want to hear Sarah talk about next? Because she can pretty much do it all, and if it's a subject that she's not an expert in, we have other experts here at Nimsy Insights to take care of that. So, without further bullshitting here, just killing time, I'm gonna let you guys go. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Have a great weekend. The sun is shining here in Seattle. The sun is still up in Essen, in Germany, in
Yep, just about.
yeah. So, vielen Dank.
Sehr gerne.
All right. Ciao.
Ciao.